The Israelites are on the run from Pharaoh, but instead of going to safety, God instructs them to set up camp right where they were found. Was this a mistake? Why would they do that? What's about to happen next will blow your mind. Let's read Exodus chapter 14, verses 1 through 31. Then the Lord said to Moses to tell the Israelites to go back and set up their camp facing Pi-Hahiroth, between Migdal and the sea. Set up your camp facing north by the sea. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are just wandering around. The desert is blocking their escape, for I will make Pharaoh so stubborn that he will pursue them. Then, because of what I do to Pharaoh and his entire army, I will receive honor, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So that is what the Israelites did. Okay, God gave them very specific instructions to set up camp, and he said, watch what I'm about to do. In a minute, God is going to cause the Red Sea to part, so Israel can escape Egypt. But the Egyptians are going to pursue them. And what happens next is just incredible. Verses 5 through 9, when Pharaoh, that is, the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, he and his officials changed their minds about them. They said, what have we done? We've lost our slaves because we've let Israel go. So Pharaoh prepared his chariot and took his army with him. He took 600 of his best chariots, as well as all the other chariots in Egypt, placing an officer in each of them. The Lord made Pharaoh the king of Egypt so stubborn that he pursued the Israelites, who were boldly leaving Egypt. The Egyptians pursued the Israelites. Pharaoh's army, including all his horse-drawn chariots and cavalry, caught up with them as they were setting up their camp by the sea at Pi-Hahiroth, facing north. Okay, now they're setting up camp. The Israelites and Pharaoh and his army are approaching. Now, what happens next? You think Israel might be in trouble? In fact, they are in big trouble. But the good news is, God is even bigger. Let's keep going. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up and saw that the Egyptians were coming after them. Terrified, the Israelites cried out to the Lord. 11 They said to Moses, did you bring us out into the desert to die, because there were no graves in Egypt? What? Look what you've done by bringing us out of Egypt. 12 Didn't we tell you in Egypt? Leave us alone, let us go on serving the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Okay, things are really bad. They're saying, we'd rather go back into slavery than to die here in the wilderness. That's how desperate they were. But Moses spoke up and said, don't be afraid. Stand still and see what the Lord will do to save you today. You will never see these Egyptians again. The Lord is fighting for you, so be still. And then God told Moses exactly what to do. Hey Moses, I want you to raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea. I'm going to cause the sea to part, and the Egyptians are going to walk into the sea, and they're never going to come out. And that's exactly what happened. But before that, notice what's happening here. The messenger of God, who had been in front of the Israelites, moved behind them. As the column of smoke moved from in front of the Israelites and stood behind them between the Egyptian camp and the Israelite camp. The hambroth of smoke was there when darkness came, and it lit up the night. Neither side came near the other all night long. In other words, God's presence is what held the enemy back. God's presence is your protection. Don't ever forget that. So the next morning, God caused the sea to part, and the Israelites walked through on dry land, and God supernaturally protected them all night long. And in the morning, God caused the sea to return, and the Egyptians were never seen again. But that's not all. God also gave them another victory. Verse 31. That day the Lord saved Israel from the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the seashore. 32 When the Israelites saw the great power the Lord had used against the Egyptians, they feared the Lord and believed in him and in his servant Moses. Key teachings from Exodus 14. God sometimes allows challenges to reveal his power. What looked like a trap was God's stage for a miracle. Faith in crisis requires standing firm. Moses. Words remind us that God's deliverance often comes when we stop panicking and trust him. God's presence is our defense. The pillar of cloud and fire kept the enemy away until the way was clear. Obedience unlocks the miraculous. Moses stretching out his hand was simple obedience that triggered a supernatural event. Victory belongs to the Lord. The destruction of Pharaoh's army was complete, ensuring Israel's freedom. Do you believe in miracles? Do you think God can still part seas and part ways for you? If you do, Let me know in the comment section.